King Ed Designs here. Today I'll be building this Colt Model 6520 from the Fallout video game and television series. The file is from Mystery Makers over on Patreon. It is printed on my Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon 3D printer. Let's get into it. In this first video, I'll lay out all the parts and begin the build. The main body consists of the main barrel, cylinder, rear barrel / hammer housing, the main grip and base plate, and the foregrip. Here are all the greavelys or detail parts that are printed separately for accuracy and ease of printing. These include the grips themselves that are printed in a nice brown color, so when it comes to weathering, the base color is already there. This, in my opinion, is the star of the show, the trigger box. This section can be removable if you wanted to, but I decided to secure mine inside. The box comes as several files with some added hardware as needed. I'll list my hardware below. The parts are a rear housing, a hammer, a front housing. It uses 3 M3x10, 1 M3x20 bolt, and 4 M3 nuts. Next up are the trigger, actuator, and 4 springs roughly 4 millimeters in diameter by about 20 millimeters long. I harvest my springs from dollar store mechanical pencils and cut them in half, so 2 pencils will give you 4 springs. There are only a few items needed to build out this kit. The peg files are always included in the zip files. I use 9 8x8mm pegs, extreme power thin CA glue, and baking soda as a glue accelerator. Yes, it's really baking soda. Now to the exciting part, building this thing. I like to lay out only the sections that I'm working on at the moment. It makes things so much simpler. Here I have the main barrel and the foregrip. I place some baking soda in the well where the grip sits, spread it out to a thin layer, and add CA to the grip itself. The bond is almost instantaneous. Next, I see which area is the best for glue and which is the best for the baking soda. I decided that putting it inside of the peg holes is best, as I can then just drip the CA into the gap and let gravity do its thing. I then add some to the face of the cylinder and try to tap it into submission. I failed. Time to resort to spreading it out with my finger. I add the CA to the end of the main barrel and immediately forget about gravity and just barely save it from dripping everywhere. Thin CA is like water. Pressing the two parts together while giving it a little wiggle helps seat it. While I do that, I use my finger to make sure it's flat. I guess the texture bed on my X1C and the paltry amount of baking soda I used wasn't quite jiving together, so I have to go back in and spot glue it. That did the trick. I wipe off the excess glue and not really worry about any of the residue left behind because that would help me in weathering process later. At this point, with hindsight being 2020, I should have realized that I glued this thing up in the wrong order. The main barrel to cylinder and grip should have been the last step. I will be struggling here. But hey, that's part of the learning process. Miscalculated steps today equal knowledge tomorrow. The process is the same for the rest of the build up until we get to the trigger box with bolts and nuts and springs. Every YouTube video asks you to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'm not going to do that. If you want to see the rest of the build, stay tuned, as I still have the Greeblies and the trigger box to finish up. I'm new here, but I'll get that content out as quickly as I can. Until next time, King Ant, out.